Alright, we're going to go over the last three constructions, 8, 9, and 10. Alright, 8 and 9 are very similar. What we're going to do for 8 is construct an equilateral triangle, and they're going to give us a side length. And for 9, we're going to do the same thing, but they're not going to give us a side length. So all that means is that we make our own, and then we do the same thing. So these are the directions you can look back over if you want, or if you ever need to in the future. I'm going to show you how to do it right now. Okay? You can see in this problem, example 1, it says construct an equilateral triangle using the given side length. Okay? And they give us this side over here. This is the side length, this line. So this is how we do it. We put the compass so that it's right over that black line, the bullseye, and then we move this opening until it's right over the other end. A little more, like right there. Okay? And we make a little arc there, just like that. So now we know the size of that line on our compass. It's from the bullseye to that first point. So, on the bottom of the page, you do the same thing as usual. You make a reference line. Okay. I'm just going to make a light. Reference line should be light. Then you put a dot or a point on the left side, towards the left side of the reference line. And then this is what we do. We use that length that we measured from that given side that they gave us. We put the bullseye on the dot we just made, and we make an arc here. Okay, that's going to be another point. Then we leave the compass on the same point. Well, actually, you know what's a little easier is you don't have to make a little arc. You actually make a big arc, and you go so that it's right above this point. Okay, and that'll actually make it a little easier because now we put the compass on the other point, and we do the same thing. Okay? And what you see here is we have 3 points, and we can connect those dots, and it turns out, okay, and you want to go over this bottom line again between those 2 points to darken it up. Okay. It turns out that this type of a triangle, when you do this construction in this method, creates what's called an equilateral triangle. And if you remember equilateral triangles, if not, you better remember this. All 3 sides are the same length, okay, and all 3 angles are the same measure. They're all 60-degree angles, and all the sides are the same length. Okay? I'll show you that one more time. I'm going to draw my reference line first. I'll just get that out of the way. Nice and light along the bottom. Then I'll put my point somewhere towards the left side, my first point. Now I'm going to measure my distance here. I got my bullseye on my line. Now I move this compass point over until it's right over that line. Make a little line. Come down here. Put the bullseye on the dot. Just like that. Use the same distance. Okay. And now I go from this side. Just like that. So now I have 3 places. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and I just draw in my triangle. Now the triangle, the construction should always be drawn dark. Alright, the arcs and the reference line should be light, and your final, what it is that you're trying to do, the equilateral triangle should be the dark lines. You want to make those nice and dark. They're called your object lines. Okay, and that's how you draw That's how you construct an equilateral triangle when you're given a side length. Okay? So, you can do the 2 checkpoint problems on your own for that, and then we have 2 more examples, example 3 and example 4. This time you can see it's the same question, okay, but there's no side length given. So what you do is you draw your own side length, and it doesn't matter how big you make it as big as you want, okay. So I'm going to make this one 3 inches, about 3 inches. Doesn't matter how big you make it. So I'm going to draw my reference line on the bottom. Just like that. I'm putting my point on the left side. I'm going to measure this thing with my compass. It's right about there. Now I go to this point that I made, put my compass on it. Oh, I forgot what hole I used. So let me check. Alright, I used the first hole. You got to use the same hole now. There's one line. Go to my other point of intersection over here. There's my second line. Dot, dot, dot. So here is my equilateral triangle. There it is. Okay? So it's the same method, but you draw your own line. So I'll show you one more. This time I'll make my line, I don't know, about 2 inches. Okay? So I draw my segment, my reference line, nice and light on the bottom. I'll put a point near the left side. Take my compass. I measure this. I draw a nice light, I use this one, nice light arc. Come on this side. Do the same thing. Okay. And I finish it off by darkening in my equilateral triangle. And that's it. Now you have 2 checkpoint problems, problem 3 and 4, that are just like what I just did. You're going to make your own segment and then do your equilateral triangle. Okay? And then next we have construction 10, which is the last one, and it's also the coolest one. Alright? Now we're going to do an equilateral triangle again, but we're going to use something called the circle method. Okay? And this one you're going to see, it looks pretty cool when you're done with it. So I'll show you how to do it right now. Alright. You have an equilateral triangle, right? We have to construct an equilateral triangle. Now sometimes they say to use the circle method, sometimes they just say construct an equilateral triangle. Then you have a choice. You could either use the circle method, or you could use the method that we used before, where you drew your own line segment and then did it. Okay, it's up to you. If it was me, I'd be doing the circle method, but that's because I like the circle method. So, here's how the circle method works. Put a dot somewhere near the center here. This is going to be the center of your circle. Okay? And then you want to use the compass to make a circle here. Okay? Now I'm going to make it, it doesn't matter how big I make it. I can make it as big as I want. Alright, but I'm not going to go, I don't want to go into the words up here or down here, so I'll make it a little, I'll make it so it goes right to about there. So, I'm going to put my bullseye on the center of my circle. I'm going to hold it. I'm going to push this thing down a little bit more, right about there. Alright, now I'm going to draw my circle. Okay, there it is. Now, okay. So, what you do is you put it, so you have the dot in the center, and then you just put a dot anywhere, like on the upper right circumference of the circle. It doesn't matter where, just somewhere up there. And I haven't changed my compass length, okay? And what I did is when I drew my circle, I used the inside mark. So, here's what I do. I put my bullseye on that dot I made on the edge of the circle, and I make a little arc that crosses the edge of the circle, just like that. Now I go to that point, okay, and I do the same thing. And now I go to that point, and I do the same thing. And I go to this point, and I just keep going all the way around the circle, doing the same exact thing. Once I get to, now this last one here should end up right where I started, or it should be close. Alright, it won't be exact, but it should be really, really close. Alright, you see how close I was? That's fine. So, now I'm going to, see, since my dot was a little bit off the line, I'm going to make my dot bigger. It's called like fudging it a little bit, right? I'm making my dot a little bigger so it looks like it went right through the center. And you're allowed to do that. Alright, and you should do that. You don't want to have your dot not on that line. That line should go through your dot. So if you have to make your dot a little bigger to make it go through, then you do that. Now I skip one and I make a dot. I skip one and I make another dot. And here's where I can construct my equilateral triangle. Okay. And there you have it. Alright? All of those sides are equal and all of those angles are equal. This is an equilateral triangle using the circle method. I'll do it one more time. Put a dot near the center of where you're going to draw it. Okay? I'm going to make it a little smaller this time. So now I chose my radius for my circle. That's what I'm going to do. And then I put a dot somewhere on the upper right side of the circumference of my circle. And I use that dot. Okay. And I go around the circle using that length on my compass. And I make small arcs that cross the circumference of the circle. And then my last one should end up right on that dot. In fact, if it's a little off, move your compass so that it's right on the dot. So I'm just going to move it a little bit there. Okay? Now, make 3 dots. Every other arc, you make a dot, and you connect them. Just like that. Okay? So there you have it. Now you have 2 problems you can do on your own. Alright? Good luck.